Hello, everyone. I'm Mystery.
And I am Mortimer, the Authenticator, and we are the Duality of Man. In this fight, this thing we do, men's rights advocacy and all that, it can be rather easy to get blackpilled. In fact, one of the reasons I stopped watching as much Honey Badger Radio as I used to is I noticed Brian, who is like the main um tech support over there, as well as one of the main hosts, getting extremely blackpilled, and it reminded me that sometimes it's important to thank God for small victories, as it were, i.e., as small and as incidental as they might be, sometimes you just have to learn to take the W,
Yeah.
and
Um,
that's sort of why we're here. We're here to remind everyone that as small and incidental as they might be, we are capable of occasionally winning.
yeah. Whatever I
The black
started,
pill is not your friend.
whenever I started listening to this kind of content, I imagined that it would be like an uphill battle, and it absolutely is. But we are definitely making headway. And let's see. Let's start with one of my favorite ones, the Florida alimony bill that was recently passed. Now, let's see. Florida's new alimony overhaul bill, SB 1416, kills permanent alimony. This is an article that goes into what the bill does. Now, in my just a quick aside, permanent alimony should never have been a thing, or at the very least should have been overturned years ago.
Ah, but the sentimental value of women, though, inherently. Derp.
Governor, Governor Ron DeSantis signed a new Florida bill that will overhaul the state's alimony laws, including ending what is known as permanent alimony. DeSantis signed the new measure, SB 1416, into law on Friday. This wasn't this Friday, obviously, this was a while ago. But a year after he vetoed a similar bill that would have also eliminated permanent alimony while also setting up a formula for alimony amounts based on the length of the marriage. SB 1416 is the fourth bill of its kind that aimed to kill permanent alimony in the past decade, along with the 2022 version DeSantis vetoed last year. Former Governor Rick Scott vetoed two other bills. Let's see. Florida's new alimony law went into effect Saturday and not only does away with permanent alimony, but also sets a 5 year limit on what is known as rehabilitative alimony, allows alimony payers to seek modifications under certain conditions and more. So, like, okay, like, I might understand that if you are, you know, if you're like if you're married and your partner is the main breadwinner, like you might need a little bit of support to like get back on your feet if the marriage comes to a sudden end. But like in a country where we have no fault divorce, the idea of permanent alimony is ridiculous.
Certainly, in the case of fault divorce, I see less wrong with it, considering that if it's a fault divorce thing, then you get what you fucking deserve. But in the context of no fault, yeah, no.
But here's the thing,
If
even
if if
in
if they did nothing wrong, then there's nothing for them to constantly be paying for. And but my inherent sentimental value as a woman is not a thing that's worth flying over,
let's see,
especially because you wouldn't extend it in the opposite case. If a man, for whatever reason, was not the primary breadwinner and he wanted permanent alimony, oh, the wailing and gnashing and shrieking and reeing of teeth.
that has happened, but those cases are extremely rare to the point where like whenever you see one, you become surprised that it even occurred.
Hmm.
Let's see. The bill introduces new language, outlines alimony as temporary and strikes references to its former permanent nature. It will allow judges to reduce or terminate alimony support or maintenance payments after considering several factors such as the age and health of the person who makes payments, the customary retirement age of that person's occupation, the economic impact or reduction alimony would have on the recipient of the payments, and the motivation for retirement and likelihood of returning to work for the person making the payment. So, like, if a man falls ill, he could like go to the court and ask for his payments to be reduced because obviously he's not going to be making as much.
Yeah. And if you're not making as much, then why should we price gouge you into homelessness in order to keep the woman, quote, in the manner to which she has become accustomed, unquote.
See, the four types of alimony the state now recognizes are temporary, bridge the gap, rehabilitative, which is now kept at 5 years, and durational. Let's see, here's an interesting factor: the party seeking alimony must provide burden of proof. Let's see, the bill states
Based.
that incredibly states that the party seeking support and maintenance or alimony now has the burden of proving their need for support and the other party's ability to pay. So you have to prove you need it and prove that the person is capable of paying whatever amount you're asking for.
Based.
Like I have seen some like incredibly ridiculous amounts of alimony being dished out to the point where the man is basically rendered destitute. Now this is what needs to this honestly should be applied nationwide because this is probably the most fair way of doing alimony, but it's that's going to be an entirely separate uphill battle.
Not to mention that, but it is a return to a standard level of like jurisprudence isn't the right word, but it's the only one coming to me. It, it's a return to like ordinary legal proceedings. For some reason, in areas where hashtag woman most affected, or at least in theory, woman most affected, we tend to suspend and in some cases reverse things like burden of proof, reasonable doubt, and like mens rea and actus rea, and this seems to be a reasserting that burden of proof is a thing, reasonable doubt is a thing, and that like um actus reus and mens rea are a thing. So yeah, the narrative value of the woman card is slowly fading, and thus this is why this is in the minor but definitely worth taking into consideration W category. Take the W.
There's one thing I would add to this divorce bill. It would be that you cannot seek alimony if if divorce was caused due to an infidelity that the party seeking alimony had caused.
I
Because you
that
gotta think about it.
sounds like something that seems reasonable. I could see it. I could see it maybe. I would think it would have to be a separate filing or a separate charge rather than included. Though is the only like bureaucratic thing I could see going wrong with it.
Well, you think you would the person who would be paying the alimony would have to provide proof of infidelity. Like they would have to like have
Right,
evidence.
and yeah, the that's the thing. It drives me nuts that like infidelity is somehow not something you can take anyone to like even civil court over, even though it is both a legal and like moral vow that you make, and
Yeah,
it's supposed to be until death do us part, even if it's that's mostly for poetic reasons. You still it's still a both moral and legal supposition, as in you can get married at courthouses if you're not particularly spiritual or religious or whatever. So if it's a legal supposition, how is there no such thing as like breach of contract in such a case?
yeah, it is a legal form that you are basically entering into a agreement and like almost all other contracts, there is a punishment for breaking it, and infidelity would be considered a breaking of the marriage contract. So there absolutely should be some form of punishment for it. But for some reason, like you could engage in
At least
infidelity,
in the civil sense, I would think it would be something you could sue over. But
yeah, or at least like be get unfavorable terms in divorce proceedings. Like
yeah, because it's normally the person who breaks the contract who has the burden of proof placed on them as to whether they should or shouldn't be um held liable for breaking said contract.
no, see, gonna read some more. Courts must lay out findings of fact for the type of alimony awarded and to serve as the basis for the length of time any reward is due. It codifies many aspects of the law, including the burden of proof, but also the payer's ability to pay and outlines special circumstances that must be met to secure alimony with life insurance. The new bill also requires courts to anticipate the needs and necessities after divorce, not just the lifestyle during the marriage, mental health, the permanent or temporary status of a party's mental health condition, a party's ability to obtain skills or education to contribute to survival, the economic repercussions of adultery, and more.
Also based because for all that the woman is to blame in a lot of these cases, a lot of the time it is the court basically acting as her like state appointed thug because she played the victim card. So holding the courts accountable in addition to holding both parties of the proceedings accountable is a good idea. And generally speaking, I think judicial oversight is something we need more of. The fact that courts can often just act as an entity unto themselves is a farce.
Let's see. It also states that for alimony agreements that have been made prior to the bill being signed, that if the agreement was said that it was modifiable whenever it was the court issued it, then it can be modified under the new terms of this law.
Why wasn't that a thing already? Oh wait, I forgot woman card. Never mind. But still based for fixing a thing that shouldn't have been broken in the first place.
Let's see. Ed Brewer says that women will say the spouse cheated first, not physically, but emotionally or some nonsense. That's why evidence is required because
Yeah,
this law,
emotional labor is not a. That's an abstract argument, not a literal argument.
yeah, like if you can't provide hard evidence of it, it should not be considered in the law. Like
Yeah, because again, reasonable doubt and innocent until proven guilty and shite. You can't just one card your way into he's a bad man, therefore he's an invalid human being or some shit.
no, let's um let's talk about a funny one. Wife of Moroccan soccer star loses divorce settlement as fortune is in his mother's name. This is Akraf Hakimi is worth more than 70 million, but most of it is under his mother. This is the one I told you about before.
Yeah, last week after last week's show, E told me about this one, and I was like, we so need to include this on the White Pill Street. So need to include it because go into what actually happened, and then we'll discuss it. Because oh my god, this one, guys, this one is definitely a W worth taking.
The wife of Paris Saint Germain star Akraf Hakimi, the wife named Hiba Abak, walked away from divorce court with nothing after learning Hakimi's fortune was in his mother's name. Abak, 36, was seeking a divorce and half the wealth of the 24-year-old. He he married someone 12 years older than him. Like, man, dude, you should have known better. Like half the wealth of the 24-year-old soccer player following his indictment by French prosecutors on rape charges back in March. That's bad, but
In his defense, would you would you advise the average 24-year-old man to get with the average 24-year-old woman?
no, but they don't marry someone 12 years older. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I'm not gonna kink shame. Maybe he was into cougars. It's not my place to judge.
Let's see. However, Hakimi, who hails from Morocco, has no properties or money under his name, as his fortune is all under his mother's name instead. Hakimi is estimated to be worth more than 70 million and makes $215,000 per week. Court officials determined this after Abak filed for divorce, telling her that PS, even his professional salary was registered under his mother's name. Let's see.
Which, as much as I want to believe that this guy was smart enough to preempt this nonsense, it might just be that this guy really, really, really loves his mom. So, either way, it's still one of the greatest moments in this kind of proceeding ever. Either he got out of it by being a good, the son of the year basically, or he got out of it by preempting this and putting everything prematurely in his mother's name and playing the Uno reverse card. Either way, he managed to play the Uno reverse card on the obviously gold digging woman, and good for him.
Let's see. When news came out that he had been indicted on rape charges, and again, he had been indicted. Just because a man's indicted on charges doesn't mean he's necessarily guilty of them.
Yeah, again, innocent until proven guilty and reasonable doubt are things for a reason.
Let's see. Abak went on holiday with their two children in Dubai. It was later reported that she decided to get a divorce. Let's see. They were Hakimi and Abak were married in February 2020. So this marriage did not last long. Let's see. Hakimi was placed under judicial supervision in early March after a 23-year-old woman came forward and accused him. A preliminary investigation was open. The report said the victim didn't press charges. Like, okay, now that's sus.
Well, that and the short nature of the marriage is sus. It strikes me that we might be dealing with such a woman that she knew what she was doing and this was the plan the whole time, and yet our intrepid hero was either a loyal enough son that he just was immune to this from the off, or he was self-aware enough to preempt this nonsense. Or, as Ed Brewer points out in the comments, it very easily could be both. He could also be based enough to know he had to hide his money and decide that his mother should be the primary beneficiary of all his bullshit.
Let's see. See, Kiwi played a crucial role in the historic run that Morocco made in the 2022 World Cup. In 7 matches, the defender had an assist. Let's see. He also played with the PSG the past 2 seasons, owning 8 goals and 9 assists. He has 4 goals and 3 assists in 24 matches this season. Now, it doesn't mention in the article that I pulled up, but because Hakimi had put his wealth in his mother's name, that on paper, his wife made more money than him, and therefore his wife had to pay him alimony.
Gold digger Una reverse.
Yeah,
Lol.
this was an incredible story. Like I saw like videos of guys online like putting stuff like in their mother's name or having their moms like sign agreements just to try and see if they could capitalize on this massive W.
Yeah, it's the most base to know you in human history. Also, there is another factor here which I just want to point out. I don't have any evidence to suggest that it might have been the mother's idea all along, but because I know that honey badgers are most definitely a thing, based women do in fact exist, and protective mothers are a long and storied tradition. It's very possible that this might have been the mother's idea all along, and that she didn't like this floozy courting her son, so she insisted that he put everything in her name just for protective reasons. And if it happens that the mother is based enough to want to protect her son and or be a honey badger, then that just would add another cherry on top of this already quite saccharine sundae.
Yeah, I mean,
Ooh, that's good Schadenfreude.
it's possible that his mother was sus from the beginning because like, you hear a lot of dark things regarding the modeling industry.
Yeah, and based on how short the actual like marriage lasted, it's possible that they rush into it because he was in the middle of head over heels mode, and she was in the middle of digging her claws in mode. So
It's possible they
it,
got
it, it
Oh, it said in the article that they had children together, so it's possible that she ended up getting pregnant, so he decides to marry her.
was basically kind of a shotgun wedding of I'm having your baby, so marry me, you fucker.
Probably.
hmm Either way, all's well that ends well, and we take another W.
Yep. Now I want to talk about this one where a guy man who has been falsely accused manages to prove these accusations are false and manages to come out on top, even though he did lose like a major part of his life. I want to talk about Matt Ariza. Let's see. He was a former Buffalo Bills rookie punter. He was cut from the team on August 27th after a civil lawsuit alleged he and two others gang raped a minor while at San Diego State University. Things have changed considerably since then. So this guy, gets drafted to the NFL, could be making like millions of dollars. Life is looking good, and then these allegations come out, and he basically loses his shot at the big time.
Uh-huh. It's a Brock Turner situation, if anyone remembers that, it seems.
Let's see. Let's see. On Monday, prosecutors stated that new evidence proves Areza was never present at the alleged incident. Perhaps most notably, the district attorney's office concluded Areza couldn't have led the girl into the alleged attack because he had left the home at about 12:30 a.m., an hour prior to when evidence suggested the alleged incident would have occurred. Dude wasn't even there.
Oh, actually, I retract my previous reference. It looks like we're dealing with a mattress girl situation.
He wasn't even at the party anymore, Deputy District Attorney Tricia Amador explained to the girl. Later, Amador stated of the timeline of events, all I know is that at that point, suspect Ariza is gone from the party. Additionally, prosecutors told the girl that video recordings of the incident in the bedroom made it impossible to determine, let alone prosecute anyone, or whether there was an attack at all that night, rather than consensual sex with the other men. Let me see.
Yeah, that nasty little detail that you may have consented, bitch.
Let's see. Here's a tweet. Let's see. Prosecutor says that former Bills punter Matt Ariza wasn't present during an alleged gang rape of a minor that occurred at an off-campus party in October 2021. Buffalo cut Ariza when word of the incident became public prior to the start of last season. Like, I feel really bad for this guy. Like, we have he literally didn't do shit and then lost his shot at the NFL.
Yeah, and the more disturbing thing is just how often it happens. But because we are focusing on white pills and W's to be taken today, the good news is he was vindicated.
Yes, he was proven innocent. He beat the allegations. And let's see. This is a quote from the deputy prosecutor. In looking at the videos of the sex tape, I absolutely cannot prove any forcible sexual assault based upon what happened. So they can't even. So they have a video, and they can't even prove based on the video that a crime even occurred at all.
It's inadmissible to the court. Yeah.
Let's see, for arrays, the most powerful evidence is short videos of the encounter between the girl and two or three men in the bedroom. Prosecutors concluded Arrays had left the party at 12:30 a.m. Read that.
Hmm.
Let's see. Let's see. Professional football team in let's see. Let's see. This is a Spanish, sorry, not Spanish, but I think a team in South America. It's a Galgos de Tijuana signed signed him earlier this year. Let's see. Tijuana is let's see. It's in Mexico. Tijuana is only about 30-minute drive south of San Diego State, a place arising right next to where he played collegiately for 3 seasons. Despite gaining fame for a booming leg that earned him the title Punt of God, Ariza's playing career with the Bills was over before it began after the disturbing details of the allegations surfaced. Now,
Uh-huh.
there is a bit more to the story. I want to see if I can find it
Hmm.
because I think it's the same guy. It's possible it could have been a another guy, but I believe it's the same guy. But evidence came out. Uh, no, sorry, it was a different guy. Different guy. Because the details of the story are different. Because but there was another football player who was basically being accused by his ex girlfriend
Hmm.
and saying that he had done all these terrible things to her, and basically he ended up having to go to I believe civil court to order to solve this case. And the thing is, though, he actually managed to get a hold of messages, text messages from her phone, talking with her girlfriend about specifically how to trap this guy and gain access to his money.
That moment when you're caught being a Lady Macbeth.
Let me see. Oh, here it is. Let's see. The football player, the football player's name was Mel Tucker. Now I have his case brought up. Let's see. Mel Tucker's attorney revealed hundreds of previously unreleased texts from Brenda Tracy, presenting them as new evidence that undermines Michigan State's decision to fire the head football coach. Now, this actually, this might be a different story. Like, this thing keeps happening so many times that I that I keep getting the stories mixed up. But we can talk about this one. The fact that this is so freaking common is a bit disturbing.
But the good news is that at least some of these are coming up in favor of the accused. So yay.
Let's see.
I think it's because the like there's a kind of like narratology here where like because everyone knows the story of the like douchebag, football jock and how stereotypically masculine he is. I think everyone just intuitively wants to take the asshole jock down a peg, regardless of whether or not the person in question fits the mold of the asshole jock or not.
Let me see.
sort of like if you're a misinterest feminist type and you're looking for the most stereotypical and vulnerable iteration of men possible, the Giga Chad football player is basically the archetype everyone already has in their heads with an instant hate boner. So, eh.
I did get a few things mixed up. I actually found the case that I was originally referring to. It wasn't a football player; he was a baseball player for the Los Angeles Dodgers, and his name was Trevor Bauer. I've confirmed that this is the right story that I was looking for. Like I said, unfortunately, it happens so freaking often.
It's become a meme because again, I think at least part of it is we all were raised on like Stephen King esque high school bullshit, and we all on some level want to see the jock taken down a peg. Whether they deserve it or not is a completely incidental question.
Let's see. Trevor Bauer, the former Los Angeles Dodgers pitcher who won the National League CY Young Award, Cy Young Award in 2020, and a woman who accused him of beating and sexually assaulting her in 2021 have settled their legal dispute, his attorneys said Monday. Trevor Bauer and Lindsay Hill have settled all outstanding litigations. John Federoff and Sean Hawley, Bauer's attorneys, said in a statement. Both of their respective claims have been withdrawn with prejudice effective today. Mr. Bauer did not make and has never made any payments to Ms. Hill, including to resolve their litigations. With this matter now at rest, Mr. Bauer can focus completely on baseball. So he fought this and ended up not having to pay a dime to her, which is justice because when you read the text messages, you'll see that this man should never even have to go through all of this. Let's
Yeah,
see.
good for him. And may I just say on the behalf of all the nerds out there, we really need to end Chad discrimination. Like I know we were all primed for the inevitable high school drama bullshit by every movie or story ever, but speaking as the quintessential beta male nerd here for a second, just because just because I want nerds to rule the world doesn't mean that Chad discrimination is okay.
Let's see. 32-year-old adamantly denied the allegations against him throughout the entire process. He was placed on administrative leave by Major League Baseball in July 2021 after the initial allegations were made. The woman accused Bauer of assaulting her on two different occasions at his home in Pasadena, California, during what she said began as consensual sexual encounters. Bauer maintained the encounters were consensual. Prosecutors declined to file charges in the case. So, let's see. Ed Brewer has a comment. If false accusers face any consequences, then this shit wouldn't happen so often. Absolutely. They should
This
absolutely
is
face serious consequences for attempting to destroy a person's an innocent man's life.
at this point, I almost support the idea that any false accusations you any like provably, demonstrably, and knowingly false accusations you file, you should have to face the exact same punishment as your accused would if the accusation went unchallenged.
This should at the very least be some form of fraud.
Well, fraud and usually perjury is thrown in there as well because it it at least in the cases where it can be provably demonstrated that the person knew they were lying and in error the whole time. Like, obviously, reasonable doubt and all that nonsense, and of course, people can make honest mistakes. But in cases like these, and again, how often they occur because seemingly narrative based Chad discrimination, um, a lot of these cases are straight up provably they wanted to take the golden boy down a peg and they were willing to use the woman card and the victim card to do so.
Yeah, that's absolutely proven in these messages that are coming up. Let's see. MLB initially suspended Bauer 324 games but the ban was reduced to 194 games by an independent arbitrator in December. No major league team picked him up, but Bauer managed to continue his career in Japan. He was 10-4 with a 2.76 ERA, 130 strikeouts in 19 games with the Yokohama Dena Bay Stars. I don't know baseball stats, so that's lost on me.
Yeah, I don't speak sports, so all I know is that athletes are hot. I know next to nothing about the various athletics things. Like I said, I am the quintessential like narratively archetypical beta male nerd. So I don't speak sports. Sports is an entirely foreign language to me.
Let's see. Bauer sued the woman, and she countersued. Their settlement called for no exchange of money between the parties. The woman will receive a separate $300,000 from her insurance company. Her attorney, Jesse Kaplan, said in a letter to Bauer's lawyers. The payment is independent of her settlement with Bauer, but Pitcher's attorneys never spoke to any insurance company in the course of the legal process. A source familiar with the matter told Fox News Digital. So that payment is completely separate from what happened with him. Let's see. As the settlement crossed the wire, Bauer released a video talking about the ordeal and revealing damning messages from the woman to her friends. All right, now we're going to get into it. Let's see. This is a quote from the messages. Next victim, star pitcher for the Dodgers, Bauer said in the video, a text Lindsey Hill sent to a friend before she ever even met me.
Next victim implies A, that this is something that these women, one, do for fun as some kind of fucked up game, two, think they're in the right for doing, and three, has done before regularly enough that this is a normal occurrence for her and her friend group. This woman should be locked up somewhere. I am now sticking my flag in that position. She should be locked up. If she is a serial false accuser and serial ruiner of people's lives, even if they are the Giga Chad, stereotypical football player jocks, this person should be locked up somewhere, and the key should be like throw her into the oubliette, as far as I'm now considering, and figure out who else was involved in this tech chain, because they also at the very least should be watched, like put them under surveillance to make sure they don't do this shit again.
Let's see. Another message says, "What should I steal?" she asked another in reference to visiting my house for the first time. The answer, take his money. So how might that work? I'm going to his house Wednesday, she said. I already have my hooks in. You know how I roll. Then after the
I
first time we met, net worth is 51 mil, she said. Bitch, you better secure the bag, was the response.
if if I were to contrive the most stereotypical mustache twirlingly villainous woman in like narrative history, I don't think I would go even as absurd as what this person just joked about with her friend in a text message. Oh my god, like this person makes Amber Heard look like Amy Adams.
Let's see. But how was she going to do that? Need daddy to choke me out, she said, being an absolute whore to try to get in on his 51 million, read another text. Then
I
after the second time we met, former San Diego Padres pitcher Jacob Nix told her, "You gotta get this bag. I'll give you 50,000," Lindsay replied. Her AA sponsor asked her at one point, "Do you feel a tiny bit guilty?" "Not really," she replied.
the, like again, for this kind of person, we should bring back the oubliette. The oubliette would be the most reasonable option for a woman like this. She makes she makes Amber Heard look like Allison Tiemann.
Like, I think the hilarious thing is that somebody Like her AA sponsor, the person who's supposed to be like essentially her, who is supposed to hold her to account, asked, does she feel guilty about trying to screw over this guy? And she
Which
literally
means her
said,
AA sponsor knew and didn't say anything, at least not beforehand.
yeah, and she
Jesus.
literally responded, no, not really. Like when faced with the moral, when faced with the moral question of what she's doing, she literally does not care.
And yes, I know that these text messages are tongue in cheek and she's joking and being lighthearted and trying to be humorous with her friends about it. That's
Was she?
actually part of the problem. That actually makes it worse. That means that they consider the ruination and dismantling of this person's life and career to be something they're so in the right for doing that it is now a joke between them.
Let's see. Bauer said the messages he talked about in the clip were deliberately and unlawfully concealed from me and my legal team. He said a separate video that showed the woman in his bed didn't have any marks on her face. I think I recalled that video. Like, I think the video that she took where like they were sleeping in the same bed, where she didn't have any marks on her face, were was meant to be like hours before she filed the incident. So it's like, yeah, right hours before you lied to the world, you made a video of yourself where you didn't have a scratch on you.
It's just like Amber Heard with her. You didn't have any marks on you, did you, Miss Heard? And she was like, but my makeup though.
I mean, at least it's incompetent evil.
I like I I I never thought I would see the day, but this woman is actually making me have some or returning some empathy of me towards Amber Heard because at least she wasn't this bad.
Let's see. The woman's request for a domestic violence restraining order was denied. Bauer then sued her, which led her to countersuing. Quite frankly, regardless of the outcome in court, I've paid significantly more in legal fees than Lindsay Hill could ever pay me in her entire life, and I knew that would be the case going in. But the lawsuit was never about the money for me. It was the only way for me to obtain critical information to clear my name. Which is
Based.
like you like a man like even if he's not punished by the courts, you can still destroy a man's good name, and so that's really what he was fighting for.
Yeah, it's unironically another Johnny Depp situation, and good for this guy for spotting that it was a Johnny Depp style situation, and thus shilled out for the top top of the class lawyers. I wonder if the woman who defend the famous woman who defended Johnny Depp, the I think she was actually an understudy lawyer at the time. I wonder if she basically made an entire career out of these kind of defenses. Because if she wanted to do that, it would be a lucrative career, I think.
You see, now over the last 2 years, I've been forced to defend my integrity and my reputation in a very public setting, but hopefully, this is the last time I have to do so, as I prefer to remain focused on doing my job, winning baseball games, and entertaining fans around the world. So today, I'm happy to be moving on with my life.
Yeah,
I'm like,
you sir can get in line right behind Johnny for men's rights canonization for sainthood, I think.
yeah, like Amber Heard was, I think, legitimately insane. I think this woman was just evil.
Well, but that's the thing. How mentally stable could she possibly have been if she thinks she's in the right for joking in this like literal Saturday morning cartoon villain kind of way about destroying men apparently multiple times because again that first quip of next victim located or whatever the fuck, that is what's sticking with me here. That means that this woman probably has done this, or people in her friend group have done this possibly as a unit before, and done so enough times that they've worked out a system at this point that it's
Well,
nonchalant business as usual for them.
I don't think that
That's
makes
the
her
disturbing
insane.
part.
I don't think that makes her insane. I just think that makes her amoral. Like a criminal who knows that he's hurting people, may not necessarily be insane. He just has to be lacking in morals.
I know, but even the opportunistic criminal is usually after the money more so than they are the sheer pleasure of fucking with people. And this woman and her cohorts seem to have been at it mostly for the sheer fun of fucking with people. That is a marker of insanity.
Using the fact that she appears to take some sort of like enjoyment or fun out of it
Yeah,
is
it's sport for her. Look again, look at the phrase next victim located, blah 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 blah, which means that this is basically instead of going to a comic book shop and playing D&D, or instead of going to like a horse racing track and betting on horses or something, this is what her and her friend group do instead of like the usual like sort of bad mom to get together at Applebee's and talk shit kind of thing. These women get their jollies repeatedly destroying men's lives and then rolling in the dough that they bequeath from them, apparently. And what I'm curious about is how many times have they done this and gotten away with it purely for a combination of victim card and woman card? Because if I were the legal system, I would then be looking into this woman's history and her friends' histories with a fine tooth comb to find everyone else they've wronged in this way. It's not enough that she was finally stopped in this instance. I think in order for actual justice to be served, you'd have to go through this woman's entire like dating history and undo whatever she took from all the other ones too.
all right. If I was a rich and successful man and I was interested in dating a young woman, I would probably for the first few dates only meet her in public places. And after the first date, if I was interested in seeing her again, I would immediately hire a private investigator.
It's sad that we've come to there, but when women like Amber Heard are the basic middle of the road variety of crazy, and women like this are the far end of the female crazy. No, it's just self preservation at this point. But the good news is that this Saturday morning cartoon villain of a woman and her cohorts are at the very least ruined in the court of public opinion now, and will have a harder time getting away with this in future. He said,
Yes,
hopefully.
justice prevails and evil has been thwarted yet again.
But like it's actually kind of sickening how like this isn't even like nuanced villains like you would get out of a 80s or 90s comic. This is straight up like Silver Age absurd like Adam West Batman levels of cartoonish evil.
Yeah, this is
And yet
Joker. This is like Joker poisoning the water supply of Gotham.
here it straight up exists in real life in meat space apparently. Holy fucking shit. This woman hopefully gets sectioned to a mental institution. Like, I know that Arkham doesn't actually exist, but this woman has single-handedly convinced me that it should. Criminal insanity is now a thing in my head.
All right, I have to go because my ride is almost here. So yeah, let's end the episode. We have some we do have hope, guys. Laws are being changed, and false accusers are being thwarted. So
I
things.
mean, yeah, and remember, it was Ken that people were drawn to in the Barbie movie. It was Kyle Rittenhouse that people sided with en masse, and it was Johnny Depp who basically made the male victim a thing in a lot of people's minds. So as demoralizing and as black pillish and as frustrating as being a men's rights advocate can be, you have to remember sometimes that the black pill is not your friend, and where you can, take the W.
All right, buddy. I have been Mystery.
I've been Dalton Mortimer, the Authenticator, and we have been the Duality of Man. Have a good day, guys. Cheers.
Bye, everybody.